Hey friends, Dylan Bates here, the Final Cut Pro, with another Motion Monday tutorial. Today we're going to be creating this really nice looking circle highlight effect in Motion that you can easily use in Final Cut Pro. Also, if you are a patron, you can download this title right now and use it in your videos. Obviously, first things first is to open up Motion. If you don't have the project browser, you can go up to File, New from Project Browser. After that, we're going to actually select the title and we'll leave it at 4K, 60, and 10 seconds. Just go ahead and push open. The first thing is first, we're going to want to get rid of this text that's at the bottom, and today we'll actually leave the title background. The first thing we will want to do is actually create a circle. I'm going to go ahead and just create it any size. We'll jump into the inspector, go to geometry, and I actually like to leave it at like 350. After that, jump into your style and get rid of the outline. Okay, so we have our circle, but we want to be able to move it around within Final Cut Pro. So from here, we are going to jump into the library and we're going to go down to generators, and we are just going to find the color solid generator. Go ahead and drag that into your layers, and we're just going to rename this as the controller, and you can leave it as blue, but you can disable it so you don't have to look at that ugly blue block. From there, go ahead and jump into your filters, go down to distortion, and today we're going to use the bulge filter, and that is because this is going to give us a few controls. One will be on the scale and one will be the position, which is going to be really great for this circle object. After that, we're going to jump back into our circle. We will go into our inspector properties and we're just going to reset the parameter so it's dead center. So what we want to do is actually make it so the parameters from the bulge filter affect the circle object here. So to do that, we will select our circle, go into the scale, and we're going to want to affect the X and Y values here. We're going to have to do it separately, unfortunately. Go ahead, select your X value, add parameter behavior link, then just drag your controller into this box. Rather than using the scale of the controller, we want to use the scale from the bulge. So go ahead, select compatible parameters, filters, bulge amount. There we go. We have the X value being affected by the bulge of the controller. From there, we can actually change the Y value now by going into our circle. We will go to the Y value here, add parameter behavior link, drag in our controller, compatible parameters, filters, bulge amount, and now this circle is being set up with the scale of the bulge. However, I don't like the smallness of the circle, so we can easily change that by jumping into these links. And let's go ahead and change the link scale X, link scale Y. So to make this circle the correct size, we're going to actually set this to 3. And we will do that as well for the X side. So now if I jump into the bulge, you can see that it's almost perfectly the exact same size. And that is because our amount here is 300. So this is going to be affected by a factor of 100. Honestly, I don't actually know why. It's just what happens when I do it. So I wish I had a better explanation for that. Okay, so now we want to link the center of this bulge here to the position of our circle. So it's going to be very similar. Jump into the position. We're going to add a link in the X value. So add parameter behavior link, drag in our controller, and we're going to change it to filters, bulge, center, and we will do the X first. We're going to go ahead and duplicate this, link position Y, and then filters, bulge, center, Y, and we're going to link it to the properties, transform, position, Y. So now you can see when I move this that the circle is moving wherever the bulge goes. But what we need to do is offset it so that this circle is right here in the center. And that is going to be very simple. If we just go into the X offset here at the bottom, we can set this to -0.5, and I'll explain why it's that value in just a second. And same thing with the Y value here. So the reason it has to be -0.5 is if we go into our bulge filter here and go to our center, you can see that the X and Y have values of 0.5. So we need to offset it by -0.5, and that makes it so it lines up perfectly. So we now have a circle that moves wherever this bulge goes. Now we want to make it so this is actually usable within Final Cut Pro. So to do that, we're going to go over here to Publish On-Screen Controls. We can also go up to our center value here, click the down arrow and publish. So now when we put this into Final Cut Pro, we will have the ability to add keyframes and change the position of our bulge. So the reason we added all these controls to this circle is to use it as a image mask. So I'm actually going to name this image mask. I'm also going to duplicate it, and we're going to make one called outline. So now we have both of these that will be affected by our bulge filter. So if we go into our outline, we can go to our style, disable fill, and enable the outline. And we can set the width to something like 10 or even 20. Make it a little thicker. Also, we are going to want to go back into our library, find our color solid, and drag it up just above the title background here. And we will change the color of this solid to be black. So now we want to make it so that within the middle of this circle, there is a cutout. To do that, let's just rename this to be darken. We're going to right click, add image mask, and we will drag in our image mask circle here. And so now you can see there's a dark circle wherever this mask is. All we want to do to invert that is go to mask, blend mode, subtract. So now wherever we move this circle, there will be an opening to our title background. So now what we can do is change the properties and the opacity, and we'll just set this to 75 here. So now everything will be darkened on the outside of this circle. So let's say we want to add a little bit of an animation to this circle appearing. Well, let's go ahead, select our bulge, and we can actually animate this amount value here. I'm going to click that down arrow, add parameter behavior, and we're going to choose the overshoot parameter. Move forward about a second or so and push O, and that will trim the overshoot down to 1 second in length. Then we're going to come up to our start value, and if you remember in the bulge, it is an amount of 300. So if we go to our overshoot, we can change the value to negative 300. However, you may want to actually change this to a higher value, because if you ever change the size of your bulge to be something like over 1,000, you'll notice that when it shrinks, it's not small enough. So we're going to actually set this to a value greater than negative 300. Let's go ahead and do negative 1,000. And at that point, it's pretty unlikely it won't be small enough. Okay, so now if we play back, we have a fancy little animation on our circle. And then here at the end, we can add another parameter behavior, amount, go to add parameter behavior, and we're just going to do ramp this time, and we will leave our start value at 0 and our end value at negative 1,000. Now let's go ahead and set an in point for this. So we will select our ramp, push I for in, and so now this ramp won't happen until the end there, and we can just push 0 and boom, it shrinks out. So we've got it popping in and shrinking out. Very nice. So let's also have our darken fade in, and we can do that by adding a parameter behavior, and this time we will do ramp again, and we will leave the start value to a negative 100%, and then we will find where the circle comes completely in and push O to shrink it. We can set the curvature up here nice, and so now it fades in as the circle appears, and then we can have it fade out by adding yet another ramp, and this time we can change its in point to here and it's out to there with I and O. And then we're going to actually change the values to be 0% to negative 100%. So now if we play back, it shrinks out. So we've got it popping in and shrinking out. Perfect. So some other quick items we could do is jump into the shape. We could publish the outline, go to publish, go to brush color. We could publish that. We could publish all of these different values so that we can change them within Final Cut Pro. After that, we're just going to push Command S, and this is how we publish to Final Cut. We can just call this the screen highlight or whatever you want. Actually, I'll call it circle screen highlight. Then we can go down into the Final Cut Pro or whatever you want to call it, and we will push publish. So now if we jump over to Final Cut Pro, we can find our titles here, and we can find my circle screen highlight. So now if I play back, you can see it is appearing on the screen and creating a really nice highlight. We can also move where it's going to happen. We can change the scale of it, just like so. We can also add a keyframe and animate its position. We can disable the outline. We can change the color of the outline. We have the ability to change the opacity on the outline and the width, all of that. So this was definitely a much more advanced tutorial, but I hope it is helpful to you and shows how to use some of the parameter behaviors within Motion to create powerful plugins. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure if you are a patron, you download this. I'll have a few extra bells and whistles with it that you can use for your videos. And I will see you on Friday for a Final Cut Friday tutorial. Peace!